So I'm going to show you how to graph data using Excel. So I've placed a small amount of data in here, the time and the media, and then the cells per mil. You notice I have this in scientific notation, but it doesn't have to be. Excel can switch these from scientific notation to actual numbers, so you can put them in as regular numbers as well. So to graph the data, you first want to lay out your data on your Excel sheet with your independent variable time in one column and then your dependent variables in the adjacent columns. So here I've just shown one of the growth curves, but you could add more, media Y, media Z if you'd like. And then grab all the data that you want to graph and in the insert column, insert a graph or chart. We're going to insert a line graph. And when it comes in, it may or may not be correct. So in this case, the media column is correct, but it's counting using our time as another dependent variable. So I don't want it to include that one. So we're going to modify the chart, and you're going to use this chart tools here. So open up the chart tools here, select data, and now we can tell it that we don't want the time data to be included in our chart. And now we have just our media X data, and on the X-axis should be time. We'll fix that in a second. On the Y-axis should be cells per mil, so our values are there. And you can see how the data looks. So let's see if we can fix this. So we're going to click on the X-axis. So we're going to right-click in this area, highlight those 1 through 5, and right-click. And now we're going to select the data for the horizontal axis labels. So we want to edit here, and we want to select what we want to have in that horizontal axis instead. And that's going to be time. So we're going to highlight the time over here. So once we do that, the horizontal axis is now going to read our time from 0 to 120. And the vertical axis has our cells per mil. So this graph looks pretty good. It has the components that we want on it. Now we can add some things like axes titles, and then you would be able to edit these. This is going to be time in minutes. And do the same for the y-axis. We can move this guy around if we want to, so put it on the right instead. And we can format our title up here, change the title. So this would be growth of E. coli in media X. So that graph looks the way we want it to. We may want to copy that so we have another version of it. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, because you can always just So now we have another version of this graph, and for this one we're going to change the y-axis so that it has it's in a log axis rather than linear scale. So to do that, we want to probably highlight here and then axes options, and in the bar over here drag down here to make that a logarithmic scale. So that's now displayed in a log scale. Now you notice you have all these numbers down here that don't fit your data set. So you want to go ahead and adjust this so that we're only going from 10 to the 5th to 10 to the 7th rather than starting at 0 on that x-axis. And now that looks pretty close to what we want this graph to look like, where it includes the data from time 0 to time 120 on a log scale. So that shows you what those two graphs would look like if you made them on a computer rather than drawing them by hand. And of course you can add additional data points here to include all 3 of your lines on your graph.